In 2007, fans of action-adventure games were introduced to two secret societies, the Assassins and the Knights Templar. Since then, Ubisoft has regularly released new content in the series, announcing Assassin's Creed Origins in 2017. While the trailer was certainly impressive, it failed to portray all of the upcoming changes within the franchise. Before we uncover the hidden secrets of Assassin's Creed Origins, be sure to hit that subscribe button for fresh new content from the gamer. Navigation. In any adventure game, it is a given that players need to be able to navigate their surroundings no matter how big or small the world around them is. Assassin's Creed is no different in this respect. The past titles have included a way to navigate the world in the form of a minimap that could be viewed at the bottom right-hand side of the screen. When announcing Assassin's Creed Origins at E3 in 2017, Ubisoft did not explicitly state that anything would change with the current navigation setup, but keen gamers were quick to notice the absence of a minimap icon in the lower corner of the screen. Instead, there appears to be a compass bar at the top of the screen. Many gamers are already familiar with compass bars as a form of navigation, as several other games utilize the same features, such as the Elder Scrolls franchise. Fans were left wondering why the sudden change if the minimap had worked sufficiently in the past. It's possible that with the expansive world seen in the E3 2017 trailer, Ubisoft wanted to make sure that players could effectively navigate the world around them and encourage them to explore. Eagle Eye. Speaking of navigation, Assassin's Creed Origins also introduced Seenu, Bayek's eagle companion, who can be utilized for a bird's-eye view of the surrounding areas in and around Siwa Oasis. Throughout the series, eagles have played an important role in the Assassin's Creed franchise, from weaponry to eagle vision, so it makes sense that Bayek's companion would be an eagle. Seenu can be deployed using the D-pad, and Ubisoft's intention was to give players an actual eagle-eye view of their surrounding area, which should take more of an active role than climbing towers and buildings, as was done previously in earlier Assassin's Creed games. More importantly, Bayek's companion can tag enemies to follow their path and make note of other important icons on the map. In fact, Seenu's view from above is also set to assist Bayek in avoiding detection, since stealth has long been a staple of the franchise. According to Ubisoft insiders, Seenu also has the ability to be upgraded over time to the point that she will also be able to assist in attacks. Although Seenu was included in the initial announcement trailer, Ubisoft did not define all of the eagle's abilities. Players of the game can look forward to exploring what Seenu is capable of when the game is released in October of 2017. Skilltree. The Assassin's Creed series has made use of skill trees in the past games, but with the introduction of Assassin's Creed Origins, Ubisoft sought a way to revamp nearly everything in the game, including the skill tree. In the past, skill trees were more focused into three subsets such as combat, stealth, and ecosystem. Such skills could be unlocked by gaining experience points or purchased through in-game microtransactions. It seems as though with the new skill tree setup, Ubisoft borrowed some inspiration from other RPGs in the sense that skill trees seem more defined and have clear-cut goals regarding the character progression of Bayek. 3 skill trees are currently making their way around the internet: Warrior, Hunter, and Seer. Each tree seems more specialized in their abilities than previous skill trees in the franchise. Warrior has, as players might expect, more combat-driven skills, while Hunter appears to cover archery and skills specifically targeting Seenu. Seer seems to have more stealth-related skills such as smoke screens and sleeping darts. It seems as though each unique skill tree includes a mastery level to unlock as well. Perhaps Ubisoft understood that some players would like a little more depth into their character's growth, and a revamped skill tree seems to do just that. New combat style. While previous versions of Assassin's Creed have relied on a sort of timed combat maneuver, it appears as though this will no longer be the case with the release of Assassin's Creed Origins. Previous combat sequences seem to have issues with camera placement, moving to show all enemies surrounding the player's character in a move that's almost reminiscent of top-down perspective games. The combat sequences illustrated in the Origins trailer appear to have fixed camera movement, which will definitely change the fighting scenes in the new title, much like combat in other RPGs and action-adventure games. Players can also utilize different attack modes such as fast and weak, as well as slower attacks that appear to deal more combat damage. Along with this, weapons will also have different behaviors as well, while still leaving legacy controls intact. Some early players of the game demo have stated that the new combat style in Assassin's Creed Origins feels similar to the combat style found in Dark Souls, while still maintaining its own unique feel. Ubisoft has obviously put time into rethinking their approach to combat in the Assassin's Creed series. More intuitive combat sequences should create a more engaging game for players while still maintaining the overall feel of previous Assassin's Creed titles. Animal Kingdom. Along with Bayek's eagle companion Seenu, Assassin's Creed Origins seems to have a plethora of animals residing across the map for players to interact with. While NPC animals are not new to most action-adventure games, past Assassin's Creed titles included, there are some interesting new interactions that players can engage in with the surrounding wildlife. For instance, utilizing the seer section of the skill tree will make it possible for players to use sleep darts on the local wildlife in order to tame them. Tamed animals can be then used in combat, allegedly assisting Bayek. Players can also hunt animals and, of course, use them for crafting materials, which would definitely come in handy. Along with horses, players can also make use of camels as transportation as well. Naturally, with Assassin's Creed Origins taking place in Egypt, animals such as hippos, crocodiles, hyenas, and even leopards are included. The addition of native wildlife will not only act as a benefit to players, but also a danger as well. Players will also be able to explore underwater locations in-game, which of course will include beautiful and often dangerous wildlife. If the trailer is to be believed, it appears as though there will be shipwrecks to explore as well. Shiver me timbers. Better quests. In previous incarnations of the Assassin's Creed franchise, side missions often seemed aimless and often disenfranchised from the main storyline. With Origins, Ubisoft set out to create a more RPG feel to the overall landscape. Not only is the map sprawling and vast, but the NPCs and their quests are more fleshed out overall. The NPCs in-game are said to be more unique and robust, with each in-game non-playable character having their own distinct storylines that tie into the overarching storyline. While the quests are more substantial than quests in previous versions of the Assassin's Creed games, the quests in Origins are allegedly optional. The addition of optional quests will create a more open world for players to explore, which is exactly what Ubisoft intended. With Assassin's Creed Origins revamping itself into more of an RPG than it was in the past, gameplay for players could be nearly endless with choices on character development and secondary storylines. In fact, with quests becoming optional, there are no penalties, it seems, for veering off the path given by NPCs, which could create an even more enjoyable game for fans of the Assassin's Creed franchise. In addition, the open world feel of Origins also leaves the game open for players to really get in depth with the surrounding landscape and characters they encounter. Loot, craft, kill. As Assassin's Creed Origins is an origin story, there will be no Brotherhood to equip Bayek as he begins his journey across the landscape of Egypt. Instead, Ubisoft has revamped looting so that players will get more items that are beneficial to their character. Weapons will be available for looting and will become part of a player's inventory as opposed to being just one-use items. As previously mentioned, combat has changed significantly and each weapon will have unique behaviors. More importantly, weapons will be capable of being leveled up and will inflict damage on opponents in different ways similar to other RPGs. Players will also be able to craft weapons and upgrade them accordingly. In order to get more powerful weapons that deal large amounts of damage, players will have to find or craft weapons to the specifications they're looking for. Simply put, there will no longer be easily obtained weapons that will be capable of assassinating enemies in a single shot. But that's not to say that players cannot craft such a weapon themselves. This also means that the small set of weapons available in previous titles has now morphed into a larger assortment of weapons overall. Players can also look forward to crafting better armor for their character, which also lends to bigger possibilities for how players will play the game differently from one another. In-depth NPCs. Along with more in-depth side quests, Ubisoft promises that all of the NPCs in-game will feel unique. In fact, all of the NPCs have their own lives and their own agendas as if they are complementary to the in-game action of Bayek instead of mindless mannequins waiting around for the player character to interact with them. Civilians in-game will go about their daily lives and players can decide whether or not to interact with them. Of course, they will occasionally have a quest or two for players to complete, should they choose to do so. In addition to civilians, bandits will also be present in-game and may or may not be friendly to player characters. Bandits are capable of surrounding and attacking player characters, which should lend to even more realism in the Assassin's Creed franchise. Farmers, priests, guards, and other characters are also available in-game on their own schedules, making the NPCs in Assassin's Creed Origins more three-dimensional. Such a decision on Ubisoft's part should create a more comprehensive world environment for players to navigate as they continue on their adventure. In fact, more in-depth NPCs and environments could potentially lengthen gameplay as well if players are more apt to try new lines of conquest, as well as initiating contact with NPCs in order to either help said NPCs or even gain more loot for themselves. Boss battles. Along with abundant wildlife and new combat sequences, the creators at Ubisoft sought to create a new experience for players in the form of boss battles. In previous Assassin's Creed titles, larger and more difficult enemies were few and far between. Giant squid, anyone? While some players may argue that the previous setup regarding bosses in Assassin's Creed games was sufficient, the new combat style might lend to more inventive boss battle situations. In fact, with the new combat style, boss battles might prove to be more difficult if players have not looted or crafted the appropriate weapons for taking down down certain bosses. Ideally, large creatures and bosses will create situations in which players will have to get creative with their approach in order to take any of the new bosses down. Such an addition could prove to garner more entertainment and engaging gameplay overall. Keeping the new combat style in mind, players may really have to think about how they approach larger, more dangerous enemies that are threatening their character's life. Miscalculations could easily prove dangerous for players, but with the addition of leveling weapons up along with the revamped skill tree, players will stand a chance at defeating bosses no matter how large they may be. Origins of a Brotherhood. As an origin story, first and foremost, fans of the Assassin's Creed franchise will finally get a more in-depth look at the events that led up to the creation of the Brotherhood. The main character Bayek is not an assassin, at least not at the start of the game anyway. He is in fact a Medjay who is seen as outdated in Greek-influenced areas of Egypt. His group had previously served pharaohs for hundreds of years and in doing so protected the landmarks and cities of Egypt from outsider threats. It is through Bayek's story that players will be able to explore the creation of the Brotherhood itself. Ubisoft has made it clear that through these stories, players will be able to fully see how the assassins came to be and where the familiar symbols of the Brotherhood originate. Through utilizing a more RPG approach to the new title in the Assassin's Creed series, Ubisoft is not only expanding gameplay for longtime fans, but also creating an interactive world where players can see the story unfold firsthand rather than in flashbacks, as some games in a similar fashion are prone to doing. Allowing players to live the story, Ubisoft may be creating a more memorable experience for fans overall. So, what do you think of the changes coming to the Assassin's Creed franchise? Let us know down in the comments below, and don't forget to click that subscribe button so you can watch more videos from our playlist. Thanks for watching.